Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. So the name of the title, well, let's say the title of the talk is a bit different from the one you got from the agenda. The only reason why is actually didn't fit in the screen. I'm very bad at writing titles and everything, so this is why. But we're going to speak about bug bounty inside big organizations and methodology that you can use to actually skill up your blue teams. So yeah, my name is Paul. How do you feel, guys? After 3 days of conferences and like so many talks, when I saw the schedule, I was like, okay, I'm going to be the last one. That's going to be tough. Everyone's going to be sleeping. But yeah, I hope you're doing okay. Just a quick disclaimer. This talk is not affiliated with my current employer. So all the views I'm giving is only my own and personal and blah, blah, blah and everything. I'm not going to say the same words as Ange during his keynote, but yeah, you got the point. Just a quick shameless advertisement. Did you hear about this website? Can you just like raise the hand if you know it? A couple of people, cool. Okay, so this is one of my latest projects I've been working on. So this is called CFP Time. And the project is actually to index call for papers around the world for like your security conference. So let's say you got a call for paper, which is currently open. Feel free, you can just like submit it on the website. And afterwards, I'm just going to review it. And everyone, let's say all the speakers in the globe are going to be able to just like check which call for paper is currently available. So they're just going to be able to submit to it. The reason, there were actually two reasons why I did this website. Just it's out of context, and afterwards I'm just going to go back to the talk. First one was because I wanted to give back to the community. And the second one was because we were getting an intern at the company, and his subject was about Django. I didn't know Django, so I was like, okay, what the hell, I'm just going to develop something. So I'm going to know about it, so this is why this is written in Django, whatever. All right, maybe you listened to my French accent. So I come from Clermont-Ferrand, proudly come from there. And this is Le Puy de Dôme, which is actually a dead volcano. And this is next to, Clermont-Ferrand. It's beautiful, especially if you like hiking, paragliding, and the hot balloon. This is beautiful. Feel free to come. Even French people sometimes don't really know exactly where this is. So I just checked from Luxembourg. It could tell you, I mean, it should take 113 hours by walking if you want to come here. So, you know, just after the talk, feel free and just leave. And this is between Lyon and Bordeaux, in the middle of volcanoes. That's it. Anyway, before this, so before coming back to France, I was living in London. This is why I kind of have this really weird accent. Some people just ask me if I'm Australian, but no, I'm French. And I used to live there, and I worked, and I was doing a lot of offensive stuff. So I was working for a company there. Are there some people here doing offensive? Just raise your hand. Like literally, okay. Few people here doing offensive. So yeah, I was there doing penetration testing, red teaming, research and development, training, and doing all this kind of stuff. And once, so I went to a client to do an internal assessment. So I just like, plugging in onto the network and trying to see what I could do. Turns out that after a couple of days, I owned the entire network, which was quite fine. Funny fact with this was around Christmas. So they hired someone from, I don't know, with a traditional Christmas dress, and she was giving us biscuits. And afterwards, we had to take like a, how can I say, it's like a corporate picture. So they want me, they wanted me on the picture with like everyone from the company. They were like, yeah, you're a newcomer, but yeah, feel free, just come with us. There's the big boss here, just come in on the professional picture. Anyway, I didn't. And the reason why I'm stating this special event is after some time, so I just realized that, I owned the network, and I actually owned it by a Buffalo terror station, which was on the network, and I was so I went to see the guy from IT, and I was like, okay, do you know that you have like this kind of network, this kind of device on the network connected to it, which is vulnerable? And I managed to get this /etc shadow. I cracked the password, and there was actually backups from the DC. So yeah, game over for those guys. And when I asked it to the IT guy, he was like, well, actually, I didn't remember we have this. And this is weird, isn't it? You're on the network of someone, and just after a couple of days, you realize that you actually know the network better than the guys who have been administering it for like a couple of months, couple of years. And I will quote someone I really think is extremely inspiring, Arun Mir. He did a keynote at T2, that was in 2016. And he was stating that one of the advantages of defensive team was actually if attackers get to choose what time we're going to engage with them, we get to choose the battlefield. So by looking at this is La Bataille de Marengo. Well, if we actually take the parallel with attacks that we had like in the early ages, before everything got uber cyber, and if you knew the battlefield, you had such a great advantage. And something struck me there was that I was on the network of someone for just a couple of days, and I knew it definitely better than those guys who had been spending years and years and years in the company. And I was like, how is this actually possible? So if the cost to attack is less than the value of your information to the attacker, you will be attacked. And what I will show you later on are some kind of tricks that you can reuse inside of your company with recent events, because as you may know, the month of September was full of breach. And I will just show you with the events. And I'm going to show you actually how you can, let's say, give more value. Let's say that the cost to attack your company is going to be actually higher than the actual position right now. So I'm speaking about bug bounty. And the thing which is interesting with bug bounty is the community which is around it. So I guess if you're following HackerOne or Bugcrowd or a couple of hunters, you might see that like they have those hashtags together we hit harder. And the community is really interesting in this way because they usually help out each other to find new bugs. And sometimes they're just stuck and they're like, okay, can I just ask some advices to someone? And usually the guy, if he has the spare time, is going to try to help out with this. And I think this is actually extremely good concept to have. And I will continue this with my last quote. I'm sorry for this. Too many quotes. Kill the quote. Build your defenses from an offensive mindset. Arun, during his keynote, was actually comparing, let's say, the home directory from one guy doing pen test and one guy doing just, blue team stuff. And he was really struck with the fact that when you're doing pen testing and you're just like looking at your home directory, you have tons and tons of, just a small script that you created for just a specific need. Let's say those hacky scripts that are extremely helpful when you're doing an engagement. And on the other side, you have those guys doing blue team work, and they just like buy those shiny new devices to protect the network, but they're not really embracing the hackiness, let's say. And I think this is going to be the motto for the rest of the talk. So one guy I really do appreciate is the fact that he was stating the fact that enumeration is an ancient art. This is something that we know for ages, and this is something which actually came up again with bug bounty. And I will show you just a quick example. So there's this guy doing a lot of bug hunting, and he actually got $900 finding an XSS in Yahoo. Okay, we're not really going to discuss the price, but this is mostly the methodology that he used for this. So first of all, he found a domain which is quite weird, honestly speaking. When he got this domain, he actually found that there was a web server on the port 80. He started enumerating the files, so he got the about PHP, nginx.conf, because reasons. Another file, testdb.php. And this file was actually vulnerable to excesses, cross-site scripting, and he got the bounty and everything. But enumeration in this case actually helped him finding new targets where he actually found other vulnerabilities. And those are the ones that he stated in his article. So when we're speaking about this, like if we take, and I will take my case with big companies, you usually need to know your perimeter and you know what's accessible, what's exposed on the internet. You should basically have like, you know, let's say all the domains which are registered within your company. So you should be able to do all this stuff and you should be one step forward. And this is actually where I want to come. So here, what should we do? Well, enumerate all the things. So first, we're going to try with the IP ranges and exposure. So you got some websites. Here we got the pgp.he.net that you might know, where you just put the name of a company. So here, just put Uber. And here you're going to get different kind of stuff. AS, obviously, and afterwards you're going to get IP ranges. IPv4, IPv6. So inside your company, what you could do is just, first of all, take like all those ranges and put them in some kind of monitoring system to just know what kind of services are behind them. So I just took the example. By the way, I have nothing against Uber. I just took it as an example because a lot of bug hunters are actually chasing bugs with those guys. And I think this is a good company. So for example, here, I just took the first IP range. I just put it in Showdown, and I see that here I actually have on this subnet /24, I have 3 servers which are actually running some NTP exposed on the internet. I just hope that this is well configured from those guys. So what should we do here? Well, first of all, when you get those IP ranges, what should you do? Just check if they are live and exposed to the internet, and wonder yourself, like, what's open on it, okay? Is it like HTTP server, NTP, and all this kind of stuff? Because you need to get this inventory up to date. The attacker is going to wait and wait and wait until the moment where you're going to put, let's say, just a Tomcat with default credentials, pawn it, and afterwards try to tunnel inside your network. So first was the IP addresses. Afterwards, as soon as you actually did the initial assessment, is actually checking if there's any delta between, let's say, if you're doing some kind of weekly check, next week, you're just going to come up, do the same check, and see if there's any kind of difference. Okay, are there some ports which are not open, some new ports, some closed ones? What about the services? Did they change? Did it come from, let's say, Apache to Nginx and so on? And one of the other points is like go for the low-hanging fruits, because especially in big organizations, you will have some. So let's say searching product Tomcat, and then afterwards maybe trying default credentials, port 445, especially in those days where you just like, we got WannaCry and NotPetya and everything, port 3389 for the RDP, or otherwise you can just go for like port 21 and just checking for like anonymous access. And always ask you the question, those services, should it be exposed or not? So for example here, what I'm saying is obviously for some of you is like stating the obvious, but if we took the example of like recent hacks that happened, and we got, let's say, the community started chasing on Showdown, for example, and fighting for Deloitte, finding like a lot of RDP servers without MFA on this. This is like, okay, this is why I think that you need to take control of like your perimeter first, so you can just like rise up. So the second one is domain names. And especially for big companies, usually you have this kind of process where as soon as you're going to have like a new service, or let's say a new feature, or let's say a new service that you're going to put online, you usually have a process where you're going to have the legal department, which is going to buy the domain and, you know, getting all this kind of stuff. But as soon as you have like subsidiaries, and if you need to, like, I don't know, let's say you have a subsidiary in Asia, and those people are not aware of, like, let's say, the whole process, they're just going to bypass it and go with, like, another registrar and register another domain name. So what you could do here is, like, start chasing this. So if we try to check the methodology for bug hunting, you have tons and tons and tons of tools. So dharvester is, I guess, one of the most famous, KnockP, Enumol, GoBuster, and so on. There's actually a really interesting list from Jadix, which is one guy from BugCrowd. And this list is a list of subdomains that you can use for, let's say, DNS brute forcing. And it counts more than 1 million records in this. It did something really interesting. It took 5 of them, and he actually did a benchmark out of it. The two results with the red arrows are the ones which are like the most interesting ones. Go Buster, and you have mass DNS. You have the time to run, the number of threads, if it's defined, and afterwards the number of DNS, the domain names that he found. 87 for Go Buster, 213 for mass DNS. This can give you some kind of benchmark. So then afterwards you could like just use those tools to speed up the process inside your organizations. As soon as you have domain names, what could you do? You know, because let's say if you identified 4,000 domain names, what are you going to do? Are you just going to try to open them in the browser and see what's behind this? Well, there are actually some tools that you can use to take some screenshots out of it and just like display everything in some reports. One of them is called Eyewitness. This is a pretty cool tool, and I think this is from Chris Drunser. And the tool, so it works either in a Docker container, or you can actually just run it, let's say, inside your Kali. You give it a list, few arguments if you want to take some screenshots from VNC, RDP, HTTP, HTTPS, and so on. And afterwards, this is going to be like one of the reports. It's going to do some categorization out of it. So here, for example, in the table of contents, we have, okay, directory listing. This is based on the output or on the response that he got from the domain names. He's going to categorize it as directory listing and categorized if he couldn't manage to categorize somewhere else. 401, 403 for unauthorized, 404 splash pages, and so on. In the version I used, I actually had highly interesting or something like this. And we actually identified default pages, default Tomcat pages, which were exposed on the internet, obviously not with default credentials, but this is something, let's say, that you could just like take care. Yeah, for example, this is one of the results you can have. On the left, you will get the web request information. So the first one is here, the URL, which is the URL here. Then you're going to have the title, content length, and all the HTTP headers. And you will get some other information, let's say response code, and so on. And on the right, you will get the screenshot. So let's say instead of just like going one by one on these 4,000 domain names, here you just have like one report in a HTML file. You can just go through, and this is going to speed up your process a lot. This is on GitHub. Feel free, just use it. And there's something here where I think this was really interesting, but I had to, for example, see what kind of technologies was behind this website. Because sometimes you need to know, let's say, okay, is there a Drupal which is running on this? Is there a WordPress? Can I have the version and so on? So what I did here is I automated the process and using Wapalizer. So I guess you know this. There's a Chrome Firefox extension that you can just install. So I went on the Hack.lu website. And this is going to tell you different kind of stuff. Let's say JavaScript framework. So Hack.lu apparently is using Modernizer 2.7.1, jQuery 1.9.1, and different kind of other stuff like font script. Web server is going to be Apache. And this is based either on the DOM or on the end, the HTTP headers, which are retrieved from the HTTP request. What I did here, I did some automation. Because there's, yeah, Docker container. So what I did, I just took my list of 4,000 domains, and I just used Docker container to just call it, get some JSON outputs, and work out of it. There's also different kind of tools like X-Ray. Maybe you heard about it. This is from Simone, Italian guy who's been working on BetterCap and a few other tools. And this one, you just give it one domain. This is going to do DNS brute force on its own. And as soon as it's going to get a new domain, it's going to resolve the IP address and get the result out of Shodan. It's going to display you everything in like a nice little table, and you're going to be able to export it as JSON or whatever. SSL certificates. This is a bug bounty blog post, which was out on the 13th of October. So maybe you came across this one. And actually, one bug hunter managed to like gain access to the internal chat system of Uber. And how he did this? He actually looked on the website crt.sh, and I think this is run by Komodo. And from this, he actually got the domain name uchat uber.uberinterno.com. So for example, here I just launched a request for uber.com, and funny fact, I got the domain name Simon Grusecki as hackedprod2.uber.com. OPSEC, fail. I mean, come on. What I did here, for example, is just a Python automation. This is just going to send a HTTP request to crt.sh. You just give it the domain that you're looking for, and then you're going to get all the data in JSON. So basically, it's going to be the domain name or the subdomain. When this has been locked, crt.sh ID if you need it, the last time it has been seen, and the issuer. And afterwards, maybe you can just like this with this kind of stuff. This has been open sourced, so feel free, just use it. Another website is called Census. So here I just took the request out of some blog post I found, which I reference later. And here, what it's going to do is just like look in the port 443, check the certificate, and get you everything where the name is uber.com. You're going to get a bunch of results, 783, and you're going to get the different pages. So same stuff. I automated it in Python. You just like give it the query, pipe it in like just like, let's say, JSON file, and afterwards you're going to be able to just work out of it. So here, for example, I was just checking like the different ports which were open. Census are mostly checking for like web ports. So 80, 443, 8080, and 8000, I guess. A couple of ports like this. I think the 25 is also checked. So feel free. Census.io, I just open sourced it this afternoon. Right, sensitive source code. And we came across this like a couple of times. Obviously, you know, when you're speaking to developers, they might just like, by inadvertence, just putting some stuff online, and they actually didn't see it. And the thing is why, especially in big companies, when you work with contractors, you might do some kind of like awareness program and be like, okay, guys, just be careful with what you're going to post online because attackers might just check it. You do this, you come back 6 months later, and because of the turnover, you don't remember anyone. And you're like, okay, the guys who left, did they give you like the good practices? And they're just like, bah, no. We didn't really have time to think about this. So I was like, what could we do to just like automate some kind of process to check if there's any kind of leak going on those platforms, such as GitHub, Bitbucket, and everything. And what you could look for. So this is based still on a hacker one. Just like check your company, and start looking for different kind of stuff. API key, secret key, AWS, password. You might just like not believe it when you're going to see it, because I guess you might have some matches. Well, this was one of the biggest, well, let's say, drama of September with Deloitte. I was checking the program and I saw that Deloitte was a sponsor for Hack.lu, so I'm not going to say too much about this. But some people actually chasing information on the internet and on Twitter and everything started looking for data and credentials on GitHub. They found some which apparently were working. And one guy was like, yeah, well, what the fuck, I entered the Deloitte internal network. I would say that this is stupid to do this. This is legal to search the data, to look for credentials, but connecting to like, well, something which doesn't belong to you is completely illegal. So don't do this. Yes, some of the people just were like, okay, we should add GitHub to our threat model, definitely. And I really like this comment. While people were just like poking at Deloitte on Shodan and finding RDP open and exposed on the internet and finding all the creds which were on GitHub, just like look at your organization, honestly. Go back on Monday and just like speak with your manager, go with this kind of stuff. This is super easy. This doesn't really need any kind of technical skills or anything. It's just like checking in the browser, not even using Google, but just like, this is just a simple search that you can do, and you're gonna just like make them freak out. Because when we were speaking about this before, attacking a company, so this is this balance of cost. You know, here basically the cost to actually enter the internet network of Deloitte is super low, because you just find the creds on GitHub and then you just connect, click, login, username, password, okay, boom, I'm logged in. This is super simple. So what I had in mind was actually automated tools that you could use and integrate them in your CI. So there are a lot of projects which are interesting: GitHub, Git All Secrets, TruffleHog, and I will just like emphasize on the TruffleHog. This is really interesting too. This is going to go through your Git repository, go through all the branches and all the commits. It's going to find high entropy strings. So for example, AWS tokens, AWS keys, Twitter keys, or stuff like this. This is going to be high entropy, and then it's just going to flag it. And I created a tool which is similar to TruffleHog, and I'm going to show you like in just a couple of minutes. And this is doing basically the same, but instead of looking for high entropy strings, I'm looking for some kind of pattern. So let's say just checking if in a commit someone used the word password, or if he started using some kind of host names, which is, let's say, internal. This is called Pepito. Maybe I don't know if you know about Pepito. This is I used to eat Pepito when I was a child. Yeah, well, I developed this when it was like Saturday evening. I think I was a bit hungry, and yeah, anyway, I was just like looking for a name. Okay, I'm hungry. I'm just gonna call this Pepito. Here, so yeah, you just launch it in Python. You give it like a repository. So this is one of mine, and you just like put it -- search with the term that you're looking for. So for example, here, just the repository, I'm searching for password, and this is going to give me basically all the commits where the word password has been committed. Okay, so let me just show you something which is fun. I checked with, okay, here we go. So I'm just launching Pepito. And I'm going to run this on the AI framework from Circle. Can you see it? Yep, perfect. Okay. And here, this is going to go through all the branches, all the commits, and it's going to highlight basically what I was looking for, the line where there was the term that I was looking for. So the term was the .circle.lu. And if I just go back, I'm going to see all the strings with, let's say, crf.circle.lu with the port, which is completely public, right? This is fine. But I actually did the same on MISP. So I guess you all know about MISP. I got a file called lools. What I did with MISP, I was looking for the occurrence of password. And after checking the results during the afternoon, I found some like interesting string which actually looked like password. And I looked for this string in the files. The string was this one. So basically, just going up a bit, and you're going to get the stuff. So this is a commit from 2012. Which has been done on the branch 2.4. The commit was migration to Cake PHP 2.1, right? Q&A review required, I bet. And here you get a bunch of information. So you get like the mail address, and I freaked out when I saw the mail.be. You get the GNU PG password. You get the home directory of the developer. So yeah, I saw this morning, and then I was like, okay, should I show this to the audience and stuff like this? But this is basically the kind of stuff that you can find. And this is actually at the moment in the MISP current repository. So I was like, what the fuck? But, nope. Okay. Okay. The last point is going to be about the Amazon Web Services. By the way, how much time do I have? Is it fine or? Yep. Okay. Thank you. I guess you heard about this. The Accenture leaked, and they actually had like 40,000 plain text passwords inside S3 buckets, which is massive. Another title, another blog post was about, oh yeah, as soon as they got this, they are the, how did they say this? The keys of the kingdom. I was like, yeah, obviously, this is crazy. There's a challenge online which is called flows.cloud. And this is just a challenge that you can do online, which is free, and which is going to tell you about misconfiguration about S3 buckets that you can have online. And I think that like everyone should do this, especially if you're using AWS and S3 buckets. I created a script a while ago. So yeah, that was like 5 months ago. And this is something which is actually doing what you do during the challenge, but fully automated. So what you could do is just like take the list of the S3 buckets you have and just like run it through. So then it's just going to tell you, okay, you should maybe check this one, check the configuration of this one, and so on, right? So I'm just going to wrap up quickly. A few takeovers. And I think this is some stuff that you could use right now. So Pepito, obviously. So I released the tool today, so this is fully public. A wrapper for Senses.io, which is also fully public. AWS scan script that you can use to try the security of your S3 bucket. Python script to actually grab public reports and scopes from HackerOne. Because I think this is good to actually, get all this data, public reports that you can get online, actually go through them with your team to just like check maybe if this kind of stuff, if maybe you have it inside your organization. So I think this is cool stuff. And then basically if you run the script, you're going to get the CSV afterwards, basically with like all the findings and public reports it has. Eyewitness, as I told you, which allows you to do some kind of a footprint by just like specifying a list of domains, and it's going to give you like screenshots, bunch of headers, bunch of stuff, do categorization about it. And the last one is Wapalizer Docker container. How to keep up? Well, first of all, I think that like 2 guys in the industry and let's say in the bug bounty scene are extremely awesome, Jadix and Nahansek. Those 2 guys are really helpful and giving like a lot of resources for free, which is great. And afterwards, many hunters. I'm not going to name a few here because otherwise I guess they would be upset like, okay, you didn't name it in the talk. So I'm just, feel free, just like go to see those 2 guys. And then afterwards, by doing a bit of bug bounty, you're gonna get some good information about who to follow and everything. Disclosed H1, which is actually a Twitter account where as soon as you get like a report which is going public, then there's just like this Twitter account which is going to tweet about it. Or NetSec, because all the articles I gave you during this presentation were coming from Reddit. And the last one is like develop stuff. Why I would say this is like at the beginning of the talk, I was like embrace hackiness. And I think that blue teams actually need some people to start developing. Even if you think that this is shitty, think about it, just like keep developing. Because the thing is just buying appliances is not a proper way to do security. Here, for example, to actually delimitate the perimeter that you have, to understand what kind of technologies is running around. Let's say if on Monday I just come up to you and I'm like, okay, there's a new 0 day on Drupal. How many websites are impacted on your side? Maybe you would be like, I don't know. So maybe just like think about the process, and I think this is quite cool. The last point, is just going credits to the people I quoted before, such as Arun Mir, for example. And I do think that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. We have some amazing people doing amazing stuff for the community. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for like all the ideas and the stuff they brought. So yeah, thank you very much. And thanks for making it for the last talk.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Paul.